to the Blackfriars Black Box production of The Hound of the Baskervilles. In respect for the actors, please no photos or video, and please turn off all cell phones and devices. Sit back, relax, and enjoy the show.
Of the origin of the Hound of the Baskervilles, there have been many statements. Yet as I come in direct line from Hugo Baskerville, and as I have the story from my own father, who also had it from his, I have set it down with all belief that it occurred even as it is here set forth.
He's still not back yet, Lady Agatha. No sign of him from that upstairs window either.
You shouldn't have allowed him to go, Perkins.
It's not my place to talk to Henry if he wants to go out.
He doesn't know the moor as we do. You know how treacherous it can be.
Indeed I do, ma'am. Only yesterday another pony went under a crimp of mine.
Full step there is sure death.
Anyhow, very most want to fetch him back.
Good. I'm expecting a Dr. Watson and a Mr. Holmes shortly. Show them in the minute they arrive.
I will, ma'am. Will you be wanting tea?
Yes, for 4. Sir Henry will be joining us. I trust.
There you are, Lady Agatha. So good to see you.
You'll never know how thankful I am for your presence, Watson. Where's Mr. Holmes?
Oh, he'll be along shortly.
I've arranged for tea.
I hope you won't take offense to this, but you do seem rather distraught. Not like you at all. There's one thing I remember from those days we worked together at the hospital. Nerves of steel and a disposition to match.
Thank you, Watson. I appreciate that. To tell the truth, I have been on edge. Desperate, some might say.
Desperate?
When I heard you and Mr. Holmes were on holiday nearby, I wasted no time in getting in touch.
Not much of a holiday. Holmes has always been fascinated by the grim charm of this locale, especially its traces of its prehistoric people.
You mean the stone huts dotting the moors? They do give a feeling of another time.
Downright creepy, if you ask me.
I wouldn't be at all surprised to see a skin-clad hairy man crawl out from one of those huts.
Doing what, may I ask?
Fitting a flint-tipped arrow on the string of his bow.
I'm not given much to flights of fancy. Imagination is more of Holmes' line.
I'm looking forward to meeting him.
And so you shall, Lady Agatha.
A very great pleasure for me, Mr. Holmes.
Kind of you to say so. I trust you enjoyed your excavations at Grimpen Mine, the south section, I believe.
How do you know I've been there?
You left your walking stick outside. The tip is coated with the reddish clay that's only found in that area.
You live up to your reputation.
Judging by the consistency of the clay, you were there within the past 3 hours.
Bravo.
You know, I'd be careful if you take your schnauzer there. They have a tendency to move impulsively. Miniature, I should imagine.
How do you even know I have a dog?
Teeth marks on the walking stick. Obviously, the dog has a habit of carrying it from time to time. The jaws indicated by the space between the marks is not large, and that this small puff of silver-grayish dog fur leads me to surmise. A miniature schnauzer.
You really are an automaton, Holmes. A calculating machine.
You take my breath away, Mr. Holmes.
Elementary.
You said you needed our help.
I do.
Does your request in any way have to do with the recent demise of Sir Charles Baskerville?
It does.
An elderly man, if I recall correctly.
Over 80.
You suspect foul play.
What makes you say that?
You had hardly called upon my services if the situation was not grave.
I've always considered myself a rational woman. Watson can vouch for that.
Absolutely.
I've never taken the occult seriously.
The occult?
Perhaps this will explain.
Early 18th century, if it isn't a forgery.
It is no forgery.
What is it?
I'm not unfamiliar with the contents. It purports to describe the origin of the curse of Baskervilles.
Curse?
Come, Watson, common knowledge.
Maybe common knowledge to you, but not to me.
The exact date was 1742. Sir Hugo was a coarse man, given the excesses of intemperance and rage. He came to love, if that word can be used with this sort, a village girl. He kidnapped her and kept her prisoner in this house, probably in this very room.
He has much to answer for.
One night, with the aid of stout ivy outside her window, she made her escape.
Good for her.
There's more to that, Watson. Sir Hugo gave chase of them all. His companions in drink right in at his heels. He outdistanced them. They found him by the two great stones.
You can see them from the windows. They mark the doors to some long-forgotten temple.
I have seen them. Frightening things in the moonlight.
When they came upon the spot, the village girl had expired from fear and fatigue.
And Sir Hugo?
Also dead, but that wasn't what frightened the friends that found him.
What did?
Read it for yourself.
And plucking at his throat, there stood a foul thing. A great black beast, shaped like a hound, larger than any hound any mortal eye had ever rested upon. And even as they watched, it tore the throat out of Hugo Baskerville.
Many of the family have been unhappy in their deaths. Sudden, bloody, mysterious.
Surely you don't believe this mumbo-jumbo.
Something the Baskerville who wrote it did. I counsel you, by way of caution, to forbear from crossing the moor at the time of night when the hours of evil are most exalted.
Powers of evil, indeed.
Sir Charles believed in the curse.
As I recall, he was only in residency here a few years.
That is correct. His business interests, mainly in South Africa, kept him away.
Who looked after them all?
The Barrymores, a married couple. He acts as butler, she as housekeeper.
Still in service here?
Oh, yes. It was Barrymore who found the body. It was Sir Charles's habit each night to take a walk before retiring.
But never onto the moor.
Never.
Because of that silly legend.
Watson, please, do continue, Lady Agatha.
The night of his death, he went out as usual. He never returned.
Any sign of violence on the body?
None.
Who performed the police autopsy?
I did.
And the coroner's jury accepted the evidence?
There was no reason not to.
Lady Agatha, it's not what you're saying that I find of interest, rather what you withhold from me.
Well, if you weren't a private investigator, Mr. Holmes, I'd suspect you of being a psychic.
Why not come directly to the point?
I believe Sir Charles was frightened to death.
Proof.
Over the months, it became increasingly plain to me that Sir Charles's nervous system was strained to the breaking point.
I asked for proof.
The
Facts.
expression on his face was one of sheer terror.
Easily explained by muscle spasm.
There was one false statement made by Barrymore at the inquest.
Oh?
He said there were no tracks on the ground round the body.
You said a false statement.
Well, perhaps Barrymore didn't see what I saw.
Which was?
My motive for withholding it from the coroner's inquiry is that a person of science shrinks from placing oneself in the position of seeming to believe a popular superstition.
In other words, you did see footprints?
Yes, a distance off, but fresh and clear.
These footprints, were they a man's? A woman's?
They were the footprints of a gigantic hound.
Lady Agatha, it's about Sir Henry. I saw him from the upstairs window. He's cutting across the moor now.
Comparing.
I take it you're the housekeeper.
Yes, sir, Mrs. Barrymore.
How long have you been in service here, Miss Barrymore?
It's quite all right, Mrs. Barrymore. This is Mr. Sherlock Holmes.
I've been in service here most of my life.
Then you know them all.
I grew up on the moor, Mr. Holmes.
Mrs. Barrymore and her husband know more about Baskerville Hall than anyone in the county.
If you have no further questions, I shall see to my duties.
No. No further questions. At this time. Remarkable woman. Reminds me of Amy Small, the Charing Cross axe murderess.
Oh, Lady Agatha, I see you finally caught him in your net.
Henry, you mustn't wander over the countryside until you know more of the place.
Nonsense. I stuck to the paths. The lighting was excellent. I was visiting with Kathy.
I sent Barrymore to go look for you.
It's a pleasure for me, Mr. Holmes.
Oh, thank you, but I'm not Holmes. I'm John Watson, MD, a former colleague of Lady Agatha's.
You'll forgive me.
I take it from the timbre of your accent that you spent some time in America, Sir Henry.
The States and Canada. I'd only recently returned. If it hadn't been for my uncle's death, I'd still be there.
Surely you don't believe the balderdash Lady Agatha's been spouting.
Watson has never been known for abundance of tact. Do you share Lady Agatha's doubts as to your uncle's recent demise?
I haven't really made up my mind.
Show him the letter.
The letter?
Oh, yes. This arrived at my London hotel one morning.
Words cut from the London Times and gummed to the paper.
Rather an old-fashioned gambit, eh, Holmes?
Arsenic is old-fashioned too, Watson, but it does the trick.
How can you tell it's from the Times?
The Times print is entirely distinctive. It could have come from nothing else. As you value your life or your reason, stay away from them all.
Nothing supernatural about that.
It could have been sent by somebody who thought Sir Charles's death was unearthly.
Who?
Somebody trying to frighten Sir Henry from staying away from Baskerville Hall. No envelope. No stamp.
I found it tucked under the door of my room.
Sir Henry, do you plan on staying in residency here?
There is no man on earth or devil in hell who can prevent me from staying in my own home.
I take that as a final answer.
Absolutely!
Then you did well to seek me out, Lady Agatha. May I keep this?
Of course.
Anything found near the body?
The stub of Sir Charles's cigar. 2 stubs, actually, and a great deal of cigar ash.
There's no other claimants to the estate, I presume.
There were 3 brothers. Sir Charles was the eldest. The second died young.
That was my father.
And the third?
Roger Baskerville, a black sheep, fled to Central America and died there of tropical fever.
Supposing that anything happened to our young friend here, you have to excuse the rather unpleasant hypothesis. Who would then inherit?
Desmond.
A distant cousin.
Is there any other kind?
Did they know that they'd be receiving the sum?
Sir Charles was fond of talking about the provisions of his will. There were many insignificant sums to individuals and a large number of charities.
He was a generous man.
Yes, yes.
The Barrymores each received £5,000.
He was generous.
Well, I hope you won't suspect everyone who profited. After all, Sir Charles left me 10,000.
Sorry.
You will take the case, Mr. Hound. You will take the case.
Absolutely not.
But you must.
We've been counting on you, Mr. Holmes.
I'm due in Bristol sometime tomorrow, then I must spend a few days in London.
Oh, if it's a question of money.
Oh, no, Sir Henry. My prices are on a fixed rate, except when I remit them all together.
Holmes! Surely you can let other matters wait.
You know my methods. While I settle my prior engagements, I'll have Watson here look after you, Sir Henry.
Whatever you think best.
I trust him implicitly. You relay any useful information to me in London.
You can count on it.
On another note, I must ask for complete fidelity.
What is it?
Mustn't anybody venture out on the moor at night. I can't impress the importance of this enough.
And you do believe the legend.
There's something in the air that disturbs me.
The air? What's in the air, Mr. Holmes?
The scent of murder, Sir Henry. Murder.
Wanted to see me, Dr. Watson.
Ah, yes, Barrymore. I'm not quite sure how to put this. Well, I'm not altogether sure of what I heard, but did you by chance hear someone crying?
I did not. Perhaps it was the wind. The wind racing on the moor can make all sorts of strange noises.
Oh, I'm fairly sure that what I heard came from the house, not on the moor. I thought perhaps it might have been Mrs. Barrymore.
We share the same room, Doctor. If my wife were crying, I would have known.
Could it have been Perkins?
Highly unlikely. She seldom spends the night. She lives with her family on Griffin Mire Road.
Maybe you're right. Wind racing on the moor.
I'll be going into the village later this afternoon, Dr. Watson. I was wondering if there was anything I might get for you.
Oh, no, I'll be heading in myself soon.
Very good, sir.
Oh, one moment, Barrymore.
Sir?
You've been in service here for quite some time.
My father was a caretaker. We've looked after this hall for 4 generations.
In that case, you know the families who inhabit the mall.
I do.
Well, I see Baskerville Hall and Lady Agatha's cottage clearly marked here, but who lives here, northeast of Great Rocks?
That would be the house of Mr. Franklin.
Franklin. An elderly man, if I recall, choleric with a beard.
You've met him then, Dr. Watson?
Bumped into him at the post office. Rather disagreeable sort.
His passion is for the British law.
Sues people, they tell me.
He spent a considerable fortune in litigation. He fights for the mere pleasure of fighting. He'll take up either side of a question as long as he can have his day in court.
I know the type. And this cottage?
Mr. Stapleton and his sister.
Ah, Sir Henry's friend. What's she like?
Quite lively.
And her brother?
I've met him on only one occasion. On the moor, chasing butterflies.
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 So, nearby we have the homes of Lady Agatha, the Stapletons, and Mr. Franklin.
There are other cottages dotting the moor, but they're all in ill repair, quite unlivable.
If you don't mind me saying so, Barrymore, things are quite backwards in this region.
So Charles was doing his best to remedy the situation. That's why his death was such a loss.
Mr. Franklin lives alone.
He does now.
No family?
He has a daughter.
Where is she?
That would be Sir Henry.
What about Mr. Franklin's daughter?
Miss Stapleton is with him.
And never mind about Mrs. Stapleton, I asked you about Mr. Franklin's daughter.
Her name was Laura.
Why are you making such a mystery out of this?
Never mind the flowers. I think I want a bit of lunch.
But you look like as if you've been enjoying yourself.
Kathy took me on a tour of the old hut. The moor is riddled with old mine shafts, too. Did you know that? I didn't know that. Barrymore. What is it?
I was wondering if I could talk to you, Sir Henry.
Certainly.
I'll go introduce myself to your young friend.
We won't be long. Well?
My wife and I will be happy to stay with you, Sir Henry, until you've made fresh arrangements.
What's that supposed to mean?
Under the new conditions, this house will require considerable staff.
I wish I understood what you're driving at. What new conditions?
I only meant that Sir Charles led a retired life and that we could look after his wants. You would naturally be wanting some more company, and therefore you will need changes in your household.
I'm quite comfortable with you and your wife. Isn't Perkins of some help?
She's a village girl, sir. Not terribly bright. Not accustomed to service. So few are these days.
So, what you're really saying is that you and your wife wish to leave?
Only when it is convenient for you, sir.
This is bad. This is bad news. I hate to begin my life here by breaking an old family connection.
My wife and I were both very attached to Sir Charles. His death gave us a shock.
Well, it didn't exactly give me a sense of security either, Barrymore.
No, sir. But we feel we'll never again be easy in our minds here at Baskerville Hall.
What do you intend to do?
We shall establish ourselves in some business or another. Sir Charles's generosity has given us the means to do so.
Well, I won't try to stop you. We'll talk about this later.
Very good, sir.
Is it safe?
Oh, Barrymore's left, if that's what you mean.
Oh, good. Come along, Doctor. The coast is clear. We need to give these some water.
I'll ring for Perkins.
They don't last long. It's really a pity.
Yes, the moor needs color.
Aren't they lovely, Doctor?
They are when you hold them, my dear.
Do you hear that, Henry? The doctor knows how to dispense compliments as well as pills.
So what was all that mystery with Barrymore?
Well, the Barrymores want to leave.
What?
That's what he tells me.
I thought the Barrymores came with the wallpaper.
So did I.
Oh, well, that would present a problem. Villagers don't like to work in the mall.
One can hardly blame them. I'm thankful Baskerville Hall has modern plumbing, though I'd feel more at home if it had a telephone.
There are no phones in the mall, only the village.
That sense of isolation doesn't trouble you?
Nothing troubles Kathy.
That's not true. Especially when the mist is thick. Frightens me.
The mall is a rather odd place to find such a lovely creature.
I quite agree.
I just can't help but wonder why such a vital young woman would want to tuck herself away in this little corner of England.
Well, it wasn't exactly by choice. My brother and I had school in the North Country, and I'm afraid the fates were against us.
How so?
An epidemic broke out in the school, and two of the lads never recovered.
Bad luck indeed.
Our capital was used up. Jack was devastated. He still hasn't recovered yet, but still, the most perfect for him.
Why?
He has an avid interest in botany and zoology. He keeps our minds occupied and our expenses minimal. We have books and we have our studies, but we do have interesting neighbors.
Yes, Sir Henry?
Oh, Perkins. Will you put these in water, please?
Yes, sir.
Oh, just bring base, I'll arrange them myself.
Yes, miss. It's been seen again, Doctor.
What?
The Hound.
Go along, Perkins. We'll discuss this later.
Wait.
Let me handle this, Sir Henry.
Oh, there's no sense in trying to protect my sensibilities, Doctor. What did you mean, the Hound?
It's only that Dr. Watson asked me to report anything I heard in the village.
What did you hear?
It's not what I heard, Sir Henry. It's what Mr. Blake saw and heard.
Blake?
The greengrocer, the man's a dolt.
Well, what did Mr. Blake see and hear?
He was on his bicycle and he heard a long, low moan sweep over the moor.
I've heard it once or twice myself.
What?
It's the bugs, they make odd noises. It's the mud settling or the water rising or something.
That's not what Mr. Blake said.
Well, then my own guess would be a bit booming.
Good gracious, what's that?
A very rare bird. Practically extinct in England now, but anything's possible on the moor. I won't be at all surprised if that's what Mr. Blake heard. The cry, the last of the bitterns.
Well, that'll be all, Perkins.
Yes, Sir Henry.
Seems as if the servants are in something of a mood.
I asked Barrymore about old Franklin's daughter, and he pointedly avoided the subject.
Well, he's not one for gossip.
Well, it's a rather sad story. She married an artist named Lyons who came sketching on the moor. He proved to be a blackguard and deserted her. Her father refused to have anything to do with her since she married without his consent.
I wonder why Barrymore couldn't have told me as much.
Well, when you've been here a while, you need to understand these people, they're clannish, and they're protective of one another.
If you'll excuse me, I want to have a word or two with Mrs. Barrymore.
I seem to have come into an inheritance with a vengeance.
I wouldn't trust the village chatter, they're a superstitious lot.
You know, the Hound is the pet story of my family.
That's a bad joke, Henry.
I always heard of the beast when I was in the nursery, but I never thought of taking it seriously.
You're not thinking of doing so now.
Well, this whole business with my uncle confuses me. It's all boiling up in my head, and I can't seem to get it clear yet.
Shh. There's a sane, rational explanation for everything that's happening. Yeah, for you. I couldn't resist it.
It's a beauty.
I found it in the jeweler's window, and the letter B is engraved on the back.
How thoughtful of you. You're not going to save money giving gifts to me.
Oh, this gift is special.
Well, then I suppose I'll have to secure a little something extra special for you then. When I came onto this moor, I thought I'd find no one but rustics and eccentrics.
I'm on the moor.
But you're no eccentric, and you're far from being a rustic.
I thank you, Sir Henry, to keep your attentions away from my sister.
Jack, what's wrong with you?
I'll deal with you later.
You're behaving badly, aren't you, Stapleton?
How I'm behaving? It's my own concern.
Stop it!
Now, you believe, because you're rich and you have a title, that you can do what you want?
Jack, what is the matter with you?
Rich and powerful are all the same.
I'm not listening to you.
Kathy,
You stay away from her! She is not for you.
it's no concern of yours. I shall see her as often as she permits it.
Then I will see to it that she does not permit it.
Who do you think you are?
I will not warn you again. Stay away from Kathy.
And I'll thank you to stay away from Baskerville Hall.
What was all that?
Stapleton, he's a lunatic. He comes in here, sees me and Kathy, gets all in a rage. I have no shame for my feelings towards his sister. He's the one who drove her out in tears. Why should he object to me?
Well, remember, he hasn't been feeling well. Maybe he's on the verge of some sort of mental breakdown.
He's liable to do Kathy some harm.
Be careful.
I'm not afraid of Stapleton and his bad temper.
Here's your vase of water, miss. Where's Miss Kathy, Dr. Watson?
Gone.
What about the flowers?
There. Good chair.
I wasn't allowed to finish, sir. About Mr. Blake.
Ah, yes. Go on.
He didn't only hear the hound, he saw it.
What did you see?
More like a grey dark shape than anything else, moving so fast Mr. Blake feared for his own life.
If it were only a great dark shape, how could he be sure of what he saw?
Because its eyes were fiery red and it was breathing flame.
Hmm.
Do you believe him, Dr. Watson?
Yes. Perkins, I'm afraid I do.
Why, sir?
I too saw the beast. Last night on the mall.
The hound of the Baskervilles?
No, Perkins. A hound of hell.
Good evening to you, Sir Hugo.
Dr. Watson, are you back? What's happened to all the lights?
I'll turn them on at once, Sir Henry.
Barrymore. So it's you.
Yes, sir.
What were you doing in here in the dark?
The dog, Sir Henry?
You have an annoying habit of repeating things.
Well, I'm afraid the truth is, I fell asleep.
That's most unlike you.
I suffer from headaches, sir. I felt a bit faint. I thought I'd lay down for a couple of minutes, and when I woke up, the dog had already settled in.
If you say so. I was looking for the weekly journal.
My wife has it, sir. It came with yesterday's post.
I'd like to see it.
At once, Sir Henry.
Who's there? Dr. Watson? Is that you out there?
Here's your weekly
What?
joke. Sir Henry, there's no need to jump at me.
Oh, I'm sorry, Perkins. I didn't mean to bark.
I thought you might like some more milk, so I brought a pitcher and a mug.
Oh, how thoughtful of you. How is it you're still here?
Miss ruled in too fast for me. I never crossed the moor nights like this. I sleep at the far end of the west wing.
Have you done that recently?
Sir?
Have you stayed over in the last few weeks?
Once.
I wonder, Perkins, did you hear anyone cry?
Crying? I don't think so. I'm a sound sleeper. Of course, at the end of the hall, one might as well be in a tomb. The walls are that thick.
Tomb is what this place feels like at times.
Would you like me to light the fire?
I'll take care of it.
Very good, Sir Henry.
It's a miserable night out.
Did you just walk back from the village?
I did?
I hope you carried a torch with you, Dr. Watson.
Certainly not. I have excellent night sight. Comes from eating carrots. Right, Perkins.
Can't abide carrots, Dr. Watson. I don't like the sound of the crunch.
These villagers were everything Kathy Stapleton said they were. Imagine, not liking the sound of a carrot's crunch. Silly creature.
What news from Holmes?
It's positively infuriating.
How so?
Every time I call him, I get his answering machine.
He should be back in London by now.
Let's hope so. If I don't hear from him soon, I think a brief holiday will do us both some good.
You mean a trip to London?
You'll have to come with me. I couldn't leave you here on your own.
Look, I appreciate everything you're doing here, but I just don't think I'm ready for a London outing. Whatever is here terrifying Baskerville Hall, I intend to stick it out.
In that case, I shall remain here as well.
I wonder, did you hear anyone outside the house?
When?
On your way back?
Can't see a thing. Mist from the moors is thicker than guilt. Can't imagine why Lady Agatha favors this place.
A bit like Kathy and her brother. She lost almost everything to bad investments a few years back.
Didn't know that. Still, she was the type that never belonged in the big city. I never felt she was comfortable with the rush.
Warm milk? I don't suppose you'd care for a mug?
Milk? No, no. Why did you ask what you did? If I'd seen anyone on the mall?
Well, I heard someone outside the French doors.
They're closed now.
I closed them.
Was anyone else in the room?
Barrymore was in here, alone, in the dark, said he fell asleep.
He's an odd one.
I'm inclined to agree with you, though whatever he was doing in this room, I certainly don't believe it was sleeping.
He's evasive with my questions. Sadly, the Barrymores and Lady Agatha were the only witnesses the night of poor Uncle Lynch's death. It's clear to me, so long as none of the family are in the house, the Barrymores have a mighty fine home and nothing to do. No need to eavesdrop, Barrymore. Come out where we can see you.
Mrs. Barrymore, do you make a habit of listening in on other people's conversation?
No, Sir Henry, I do not.
Care to explain your extraordinary behavior?
You were speaking ill of my husband.
What if we were?
He's a loyal retainer, as am I. He would never do anything to harm you.
There's cold comfort in that. What have you there?
I should have spoken about it before, but it was weeks after the inquest that I found it. I haven't breathed a word about it, even to my husband. I wonder, I may sit down. I'm not feeling at my best.
Certainly.
I know why Sir Charles was on the wall.
Well?
He was to see a woman.
I don't believe that.
The letter came in the morning of your uncle's death from the village of Tracy Coombs.
How long have you known this paper existed?
Only a few weeks ago, I was cleaning out Sir Charles' study. It hadn't been touched since death. I found the ashes of a burned letter in the back of a grate. Most of it was charred to pieces, but one little slip at the end of the paper held together.
Please, please, as you are a gentleman, burn this letter and be by the gates on the moor at 10 o'clock.
How can you be sure that's the same letter that arrived that morning?
There was a silver trim on the board of the envelope, the same trim as on the letter Dr. Watson Holmes.
What was the woman's name?
No name.
Only the initials LL.
I can't understand why you want to conceal this information.
Well, sir, we were both devoted to Sir Charles, as well as might be considering all that he'd done for us. To break this up could not help our upper matter, and it's well to go carefully when there's a lady in the case.
So, you thought that this letter would somehow compromise Sir Charles's reputation?
I hope I've done the right thing at last.
You have.
You have no further questions?
Later, perhaps.
What is it?
I was thinking how the evil legacy of Sir Hugo hangs on. It would have been better if he'd never been born.
Little late to worry about that. What do you make of this LL?
Laura Lyons.
Franklin's daughter, of course.
There's someone out there.
Outside the house?
Yes.
No need for that, Sir Henry. I have a revolver.
Needn't worry, gentlemen. Your intruder is an ally.
Holmes! We thought you were in London!
Which is precisely what I wanted you to think. Watson, I think you'd be more comfortable seated. And I appreciate it if you pointed the revolver elsewhere.
Where have you been?
On the moor.
Since when?
Since the day Lady Agatha invited us for tea.
Then you've never left.
That is correct.
You have trusted me to keep your confidence, Holmes.
My dear Watson, you have been invaluable to me in this case, but your kindness would have brought me some comfort or another, and then an unnecessary risk would have been run.
You underestimate me, Holmes.
Never. Now, I know you share my love for all things that are bizarre and outside the conventions and humdrum of everyday life. I trust that you've taken notes, jotted everything down.
I have.
Splendid.
I still don't see the need for this deception.
Had I stayed with you and Sir Henry, my perspective would have been the same as yours. My presence would have allowed the menace to be on its guard. In one disguise or another, I have moved about the moor freely.
What did you learn on the moor?
Considerable.
That doesn't tell us much.
What's after me, Mr. Holmes? Is this human or supernatural, flesh and blood, or the devil himself?
For the time being, Sir Henry, I must hold that question in abeyance.
Why do you avoid answering me?
To be modest, I have combated evil. But perhaps to take on the father of evil himself would perhaps be too ambitious of a task. Now, Sir Henry, have you been aware of somebody in this room? In the dark?
I have.
Who?
Barrymore?
You mean Miss Barrymore?
No, I mean Barrymore.
Sir Henry, have you been aware of a presence in this house from time to time?
Yes.
The place has an eerie quality about it, a perfectly natural reaction.
I think I can prove you wrong, Watson. Did Barrymore have a flashlight?
I don't think so.
Well, did you disturb him whenever you first entered?
I think I did.
Ah! The desk. Perfect hiding place for unimaginative mind taken unaware.
Mr. Holmes, I know the contents of that desk, and I can assure you there's no flashlight in there.
It is a capital mistake to theorize before you have all the evidence, Sir Henry. Eureka.
So Barrymore had a flashlight. What does that signify?
Watson, I expected better of you. Think, man.
So Barrymore was in here, alone in the dark, searching for something, and he didn't want to be discovered.
No, Sir Henry, he wasn't searching for something in here. Rather, something out there. On the mall. Watson, the lights. Come closer, Sir Henry. I shall now demonstrate that my time on the moor has been put to good use. Keep your eyes fixated on the near clump of rocks.
What are you doing?
That should be fairly obvious.
He's signaling someone.
Who?
It's only part of the puzzle, Watson.
There. There's a light out there.
You're answering your signal, Holmes.
And Watson, not my signal.
You know what? I've about had enough of this. Whatever is out there intends to do me harm, and I'm going to put a stop to it.
No, Sir Henry, that is precisely what they wish you to do. Remember my warning, you mustn't go out on the moor at night.
What's out there, Mr. Holmes? You know, don't you?
I'm afraid that there is more evil surrounding Baskerville Hall than I've ever encountered before.
Listen. It can't be.
I'm afraid it is. The terror that killed Sir Charles is prowling the moor once again.
You might also tell him my time is as valuable as his. I prefer not to be kept waiting.
I'll tell him.
I saw you driving by the cottage. I thought you might stop in.
I plan to on my way back.
Now, you really should take that old car of yours on these dirty roads. It's fit for nothing but pony carts.
I wouldn't do it at night.
Oh, but you could skip it to a mile.
You do worry about me, don't you?
What do you let?
You must be on good terms with Sir Henry.
What makes you say that?
You walk into his home.
The moor is easy and free about such things.
Nothing is easy on the moor, Jack.
Come to pay respects to Sir Henry.
Why should I? I'm no longer a neighbor at Baskerville Hall.
Then why are you here?
Perhaps I can answer that, Mr. Stapleton. I called Mrs. Lyons here for this meeting. You needn't trouble yourself. I plan on seeing you and Tracy Coombs.
I'll be spending some time with a friend. I thought I'd save you the trouble.
A friend here on the moor, you mean?
Lady Agatha.
My associate Dr. Watson is at her cottage now. I had no idea she was that social.
Perhaps I should have made an appointment.
Not at all. Your arrival is most opportune. Sorry I didn't get to take you up on your insect collection, Stapleton. A situation I hope to remedy.
Oh, no worries. I believe you'll find my collection quite special.
Whenever I first met Mr. Stapleton, he was in pursuit of a grizzled skipper butterfly.
Yes, it escaped my net.
Pity. Are you here to see Sir Henry?
My sister and I, yes.
I think I saw him in the potting shed with Barrymore.
Will you give me right back? Will you leave?
Happy to.
I only have a few things to say, Sir Henry. I won't be long.
Old friends?
Mr. Stapleton has been exceedingly, helpful.
Why don't you sit down?
There's been a great deal of excitement in the village.
Oh?
Seems they've traced a dangerous convict to the moor, escaped Winston prison some time ago.
That would be Selden, the Notting Hill murder.
You're well informed, Mr. Holmes.
In some circles, a great deal of doubt as to his sanity.
Sane or insane, the farmers hereabout don't like it.
My dear authorities are giving £100 if the farmers can give information.
The chance of £100 is a poor thing compared to the chance of having their throat cut. Surely we're not to discuss a convict who may or may not be insane.
I understand that you had the pleasure of knowing Sir Charles.
Yes.
And I've had the pleasure of knowing your father.
I don't know what you're driving at, Mr. Holmes. There is nothing in common between me and my father. I owe him nothing, and his friends are not mine. If it was not for Sir Charles and some other kind hearts, I might have starved for all my father cared.
Did you correspond with Sir Charles?
Why are you asking these questions?
I assure you, Miss Lyons, they are necessary.
I wrote him once, or twice, to thank him for his kindness.
Kindness. Would you care to explain?
I've already explained as much. He contributed money so I could open up a small shop in Tracy Coombs.
Have you the dates to those letters?
Dates, no.
Did you ever write Sir Charles asking him to meet you?
That's an odd question.
I intend on repeating it. Did you ever write Sir Charles asking him to meet you?
No.
Not on the day of his death?
No.
That's all. Because I actually have an excerpt from one of your communications. It ran, "Please, please, as your gentleman, burn this letter, and be at the gate by 10 o'clock.
Then he didn't do as I asked.
You do Sir Charles an injustice. He did burn the letter. Most of it, anyway.
All right. I wrote him. I wished him to assist me further, and I thought if I had the interview, I could gain his trust. So I asked to meet me.
At an hour when the moor is dark and deserted.
The hour seemed unimportant.
He asked him to meet you outside the house.
Why does it matter? I never went.
Why?
A private matter concerns only me.
Why deny you wrote the letter?
Obvious. I should think gossip.
So, Miss Lyons, you admit that you wrote Sir Charles asking him to meet you at the time and place of his death?
I do.
Yet you deny you kept the appointment?
Yes.
Is that all that you wish to tell me?
Mr. Holmes, that is all I am going to tell you. I'll wait for Mr. Stapleton in the car.
A remarkable woman. Not from the manner born, but certainly puts on that impression.
You're a bloodhound, true sense of the word, Mr. Holmes.
An investigator must be able to distinguish 75 fragrances. Miss Lyons favors none of them.
How did you find her?
I didn't. She found me, but I can't say that she's quite what I expected.
Well, then what did you expect?
Someone less sure of himself.
I saw you walking over the moor from my window.
It's Jack. He has something to say. He was looking for you.
I'm afraid I misdirected him to the potting shed. Shoe doesn't fit?
It fits, but there's only one.
Where's his companion?
Haven't the slightest idea.
Jack! He's already on his way back.
I should return long before this, Sir Henry.
You have something to say to me?
I do. It's rather personal.
Anything you can say to me, you may say in front of Mr. Holmes.
My presence isn't required.
Thank you, Mr. Holmes. And you will come see my collection. I am anxious for your reaction.
You may count on it.
My brother would like to apologize for his exceptionally rude behavior.
Oh, please! I prefer to speak for myself.
Let me speak for you, Jack.
Then don't. You must understand, the thought of losing my sister is hard for me. She's all I have for a family, and I suspected your motives. I thought you simply using your title and your position to impress her.
Nothing could have been further from my intent.
I know that now.
I must tell you, Stapleton, that I have every intention of marrying your sister. She's told you?
She has, and I will withdraw all oppositions if you promise to wait 3 months until you are completely sure that marriage is what you truly want. I have seen one unhappy marriage on the moor. I have no desire to see another. My sister's happiness is my only concern.
Well, Kathy's no Laura Lyons, and I'm no idle painter of pastoral scenes.
Then we are agreed. 3 months.
What must be, must be. 3 months.
Wonderful.
Will you be riding back with Lorna, Kathy?
Oh, I'll walk back.
I'm not sure that's wise. That convict may be lucky.
I'll see to it that Kathy gets home without incident.
Thank you, Sir Henry. And I wonder, will you dine with us at the cottage tomorrow evening?
Delighted.
I'll go find them.
I'm not so sure I like that provision of 3 months, but if it will make your brother happy, I'm not going to argue.
I knew you'd come around.
Kathy, have you always been afraid of your brother?
Yes, I think I have.
He's never harmed you in any way.
I was surprised to find Laura here.
Oh, so was Mr. Holmes, I think.
Mrs. Barrymore said you were looking for me, sir.
Oh, yes, Perkins, I can't seem to find my other shoe.
Aren't these the shoes you gave me yesterday for polish?
Well, Barrymore brought them back up to my room last night, and when I went to put them on just now, I could only find one.
I can't imagine what's become of
My
it.
favorite pair.
I'll turn the place upside down.
Oh, no need to do that. Just see if you can locate the maid.
I'll try, Sir Henry. I can't imagine what's become of it. Will you be staying for tea, miss?
If Sir Henry has no objection.
You'll be seeing a good deal of Miss Stapleton around Baskerville Hall in the coming weeks, Perkins.
That'll be very nice, sir. Especially if the Barrymores leave. I wouldn't like being the only woman. I scare easily.
Are they really leaving?
Well, not immediately. Can't say I blame them. Kathy, do you realize the danger that I'm in? The curse of the Baskervilles. I try to go around and act like everything is normal, but I know that there's a sword hanging over my head, ready to drop at any minute.
Henry, whatever this thing is, we'll defeat it together. Mr. Holmes won't let any harm come to you. You've got to believe that.
I try.
I'll go see if I can arrange a nice bouquet. The wildflowers almost done this time of year.
Don't be long.
Oh, I beg your pardon, Miss Stapleton.
Oh, no harm done.
I've taken full inventory of everything in the coffee shed, so.
You haven't been entirely honest with me, have you, Barrymore?
About the inventory?
No.
I'm afraid I don't understand, sir.
Your family has been living under my roof for generations now, and now I find you in some dark plot against me.
I assure you, you have no reason to think such a thing.
Haven't I?
Perkins said something about a missing shoe. What's wrong?
Sir Henry believes I engage in some dark plot against him.
I'm not fooled by your tricks with the flashlight at the window. Sit down, Mrs. Barrymore. You look unwell.
No, sir, you misunderstand. There's
Mr.
no fault.
Holmes!
This is it. This is
Mr.
the end.
Holmes!
We need to go. You can pack up, please.
This is my fault, all mine. Anything my husband has done is for my sake or because I asked him to.
What does that mean?
My brother was starving on the moor.
We couldn't let him perish.
You mean your brother is...
The escaped convict, sir.
Sir Henry, I expressly asked you to leave this matter to me. I told you that there's no reason to fear the lights out on the moor.
Mr. Holmes, I think it's time that I took a hand in all of this.
That would be a most unwise maneuver.
Selden is my younger brother. When he was little, we humored him and gave him his way in everything. When he got older, he fell in with a bad lot. The devil took him. Crime after crime, he sank lower and lower.
He's quite
Don't
mad.
say that.
He came to us for
He
help.
was starving and in rags. I couldn't say no.
Seems that you've overstepped yourself, Mr. Holmes. Selden is a wanted criminal. Dangerous.
I assure you, Sir Henry, Selden is dangerous to no one but himself. Yes, his mind is deranged, but in a childlike manner. My guess would be drug damage, but the bottom line is that he's not the same man as when he killed. I've seen cases like this before. Selden will spend his final days sort of like a vegetable. Dark, distant, passive. You needn't worry, Miss Barrymore. I instructed that if Selden's in any danger of apprehension, he can come here, to Baskerville Hall.
You've talked to him.
Oh, yes, he's proved invaluable to me during my time on the moor. A fact I shall relay to the authorities.
I found this under the door, sir, in the kitchen. I heard someone outside, but when I looked, I couldn't see anyone.
Let me have it.
Hold on, Sir Henry. Are you accustomed to receiving letters like this?
Under the kitchen door? Certainly not.
Give me the letter, Perkins. Interesting.
What is it?
It's handwritten.
What's the message?
If you value life, leave Baskerville Hall tonight. There'll be no further warnings.
The words aren't clipped from a newspaper and stuck to the page?
No, it's handwritten. And signed.
Signed?
Signed. Lady Agatha Mortimer. Interesting.
We'll soon discover the mystery, Lady Agatha.
I trust so, with the news is being held at this hour.
Ah, there you are, Holmes.
I see Barrymore reached you. Good of you to come, Lady Agatha.
He said it was urgent.
It is.
Dash it, Holmes. We haven't even sat down to dinner.
You make too much of food, Watson. You should take after my example. I'm perfectly content with a roast beef sandwich and a cryptogram.
Unfortunately, I can't eat cryptograms. Besides, it wasn't a roast beef sandwich. It was a steak and kidney pie, my favorite. Lady Agatha was expecting a guest, too. I was looking forward to company.
Laura Lyons.
She hadn't arrived by the time Barrymore called.
That's odd. I thought I saw her leave Baskerville Hall.
Not alone. They suspect the escaped convict is still on the moor.
No, she was with Mr. Stapleton.
Well, he knows the moor as well as anyone.
No one knows the more as well as you, Lady Agatha.
You've discovered something of importance, haven't you, Mr. Holmes? That's why you sent for Barrymore.
Holmes, I think your holiday to this part of England was carefully planned. I don't think you were interested at all in those smelly old huts. I think you were only interested in Baskerville Hall.
Watson, if you be so kind.
Outrageous!
I take it you disown authorship.
If you value your life, leave Baskerville Hall tonight. There'll be no further warning. Why, whoever wrote my name hasn't the remotest idea of my handwriting style.
I suspected as much. Are you familiar with your guest's handwriting?
Well, Watson here has a bold hand.
I wasn't referring to Dr. Watson. I was referring to Laura Lyons.
I'm quite familiar with her penmanship. Laura did not write this message.
Why would anyone sign Lady Agatha's name and not even make an attempt at good forgery?
I don't think the signature is what's important, Watson. Rather, how pressed the warning is. The net draws tighter.
Well, it settles one issue.
Which is?
There's no supernatural force behind this ugly business.
Tell me, Watson, what about that spectral beast that you described to me? Eyes ring with fire, dripping with bluish flames?
I had forgotten about him.
I haven't.
The more plays tricks, Dr. Watson. You saw something you mistook for a spectra.
You certainly changed your tune. I know what I saw.
So what? In that case, are we to surmise that your spectral beast can wield pen and ink?
You're being rude, Holmes. Positively rude.
I take it you have your suspicions about Laura.
Suspicions about many things. Did you know that she was in correspondence with Sir Charles?
No.
Did you know that Barrymore was off the moor during Sir Henry's London stay?
Barrymore never leaves the moor.
You are mistaken. I have it on authority that he left Baskerville Hall.
What authority?
A gentleman. On the moor.
You mean Jack Stapleton?
You'll be casting your doubts on me next, Mr. Holmes. You don't think I had a hand in this.
Well, Lady Agatha, you did leave out one salient point whenever you first called upon my services.
Ah, I told you everything.
Everything?
I'm not in the habit of lying.
Lady Agatha, you failed to mention that you're the executrix of the Sir Charles estate.
What if I am?
Should any misfortune befall Sir Henry, you'd be in most enviable situation.
You go too far, Holmes.
On the contrary, I don't go far enough.
Not telling you that was an oversight on my part, nothing more.
Indeed.
You know of my bad financial position.
Thanks to Watson here.
He always did have a rather large mouth.
I protest!
Quiet!
Mr. Holmes, have you seen Sir Henry about?
It's close to the house.
Where's Sir Henry?
He's not in his room.
Where could he have gone to?
Come, Watson! We may be too late.
What is it? What's wrong?
Get Barrymore.
Barrymore.
Stop asking so many questions. Do as you're told. Be quick about it.
Yes, ma'am. Perkins says something about Sir Henry and the Hound. What are you doing?
I was going to light the fire. It's not important now. We need your husband. Where is he?
Perkins is fetching him. Where Mr. Holmes and Dr. Watson?
They went on to the moor.
No, they said they would hurt him. They promised they would protect him. They can't.
What are you talking about?
He's like a child now. He wouldn't hurt anyone.
Go in, help Barrymore. Mr. Holmes, Watson, they've gone after Sir Henry. He's out there.
Sir Henry never goes on to the moor at night.
Don't waste time.
He was drawn light in the whole chest. It mustn't harm him.
Why should they want to harm Sir Henry? You don't speak sense,
Well,
woman.
Sir Henry, my brother.
Brother?
Selden, the Notting Hill murderer.
The escaped convict who has the countryside terrified.
Yes.
You know he's been out there and you said nothing.
Mr. Holmes said he would help him.
It isn't your brother they went after, it's the Hound.
Oh, this place is cursed. I never wanted to believe it, but it's true.
Stop talking rubbish. I better sweep it.
Don't leave me.
I'll get a sedative for you.
It has good beam to cut the bone.
I'm afraid that'll be of no use.
Sir Henry?
Dead.
Impossible.
If only that were true. I've never heard screams like that from any man or woman. Beast had bitten and clawed and chewed.
Dr. Watson, please.
You'll have to excuse my nerves. The supernatural is quite beyond me.
What could have possessed him to go out on the moor after all the warnings?
I don't know. He tried to escape, but the beast was too swift.
Uncle and nephew murdered. One frightened to death by the sight of the beast.
The other driven to his end, his attempt to escape from it. Be along in a moment. Give him a hand. Will you, Barrymore?
Better bring the body in here.
That won't be necessary.
There can be no mistake. He's dead.
There is no mistake.
What was Sir Henry?
I'm afraid your sympathies are misplaced, Miss Barrymore.
How do you mean, sir?
In his distress, Watson failed to wait for my complete report. Yes, the man is dead. But he's a man with a beard.
Beard?
I regret having to bring you this information.
It's my brother, isn't it?
Yes.
Oh, no. No.
Why would the beast attack Selden?
Selden was wearing one of Sir Henry's hunting jackets. The Hound had his scent.
I can explain. A lady from the church committee asked if we had anything to donate for a bazaar. Sir Henry donated some of his old things, among other clothes.
They were warm and comfortable. I thought, why should others have them when my brother was starving on the moor?
You'll have no need to reproach yourself.
Perhaps it's for the best. I just wish he didn't die so horribly.
Perkins found me, said I was wanted.
Where have you been?
If you like.
You promised never to go out with the moor at night!
I was in the potting shed. No prohibition against that, Mr. Holmes.
None.
Why do you all look so strange?
It's my wife's brother, sir. Selden.
Savaged by the beast.
Then the curse doesn't only apply to the Baskervilles.
I wish that were true.
What connection does Selden have to me?
He was wearing your hunting jacket, sir. The one you donated for the bazaar.
The Hound had your scent.
How could he get my scent in the first place?
When you deal with the supernatural, ordinary explanations are worthless.
I'm afraid I can't agree, Lady Agatha.
What choice have you?
An investigator needs facts. Proof, not stories or rumor. This hasn't been a satisfactory case.
Can't you promise any hope?
I can promise something far more revealing than hope.
What?
Either tomorrow, the curse of Baskervilles will be broken, or someone in this room will be dead.
Makes me feel strange, sitting here, writing all this down.
One should always keep his affairs in order, Sir Henry.
No argument there.
There.
Only I've never been concerned about writing a will before. My own will, that is.
You'll feel better for it.
Will I?
Count on it. Can't imagine why Holmes went to go and see Lady Agatha at her cottage this evening. Last night he practically accused her of being implicated.
At least we're done with that ghastly business with Selden.
You're dining with the Stapletons this evening.
Unless Mr. Holmes comes up with some new objection. Somehow I feel that this will is a prelude to my...
Trust Holmes.
I do intellectually, but emotionally I'm tight as a knot inside.
We are leaving now, Sir Henry.
There's nothing I can do to change your minds?
I'm afraid not.
Well, good luck to the both of you. Goodbye, Barrymore.
Goodbye, Sir Henry.
Goodbye, Mrs. Barrymore.
Sir Henry.
You will write and let me know how things are going.
Of course. We want to go. We don't want to miss our train. Goodbye, Dr. Watson.
Goodbye. Luck to both of you.
They'll be all right. They did well by my uncle's will.
Handsomely. Still, I've never trusted Barrymore. I didn't know there was a train this late.
Train? What's a train got to do with any of this? I'm sorry. Forgive me. I'm tense.
I can well believe it. You've been under a terrible strain. Holmes is upstairs smoking that foul-smelling tobacco. You know, he says that this is a six-pipe case.
I am sorry to intrude like this. The Barrymore said I should come right in. I'm Mrs. Lyons, Mr. Franklin's daughter.
I've heard of you. This is Dr. Watson.
Oh yes, Lady Agatha's comrade. She speaks highly of you.
Sorry we didn't get to meet the other evening. Why don't you sit down?
I must see Mr. Holmes. It's important.
I'll go get him.
Thank you.
Aren't you afraid to cross the moor?
I understood they captured the convict.
That's true.
You mean the storm?
I mean the Hound.
Isn't it a will that will hurt one, Sir Henry? It's the living.
I understand you're from the village of
Tracy Coleman's.
Quite a small shop.
I have a distant relative living there.
I've heard of no Baskervilles in the area.
Oh no, the name is Desmond. He's an elderly clergyman.
Yeah.
Could I get you something? I fear I'm understaffed at the moment, but Barrymore's had deserted and the maid leaves before dark.
I saw the suitcases in that grip.
Place won't be the same without them.
I want you to know, Sir Henry, I had the utmost respect for Uncle. He was kind, generous, most thoughtful. His death disturbed me.
I expected to see you earlier than this, Miss Lyons.
You knew I'd return.
I hoped you would.
You'll probably want some privacy.
I think it best you say, Sir Henry. What Miss Lyons is about to reveal concerns you.
Well, concerns me.
Your uncle, to be precise.
You anticipate.
I am a flawless judge of character, Miss Lyons.
Yeah.
And you don't impress me with the kind of woman that can live so comfortably with such a large lie.
Well, what are you driving at?
It's true. I wrote the letter to Sir Charles.
On the instigation of another.
What other?
I
I know what you communicated in your earlier interview. I also know what you withheld. Miss Lyons, I consider this case a murder. And right now, the evidence points to your friend, Mr. Stapleton, and his wife.
His wife?
Wife? What are you saying?
Who's really passed as a sister, is really his wife.
I don't believe it.
Nor I. He's not a married man.
Kathy unwittingly revealed the ruse whenever she told me about the elementary school her and her brother ran in the North Country. I made several inquiries to different teachers in the area, and one of them sent me this. I think you recognize the couple. It's taken 4 years ago. The identification is written on the back.
Let me see that. It's true.
Mr. Stapleton wanted you to write Sir Charles to entice him out of the house.
He promised to marry me once my problems were settled.
That explains why Kathy lives in fear of her brother.
So that's why he went into such a rage when he saw you and Kathy together. He couldn't control the instincts of a jealous husband.
I swear to you, when I wrote the letter to Sir Charles, I had no intention of harming him. He'd been a good friend.
I presume the reason Mr. Stapleton wanted you to write Sir Charles was also to receive help for your divorce expenses.
Yes. Yes, Jack couldn't help himself because he was penniless.
And he dissuaded you from keeping the appointment after you sent the letter.
Yes.
And you heard nothing of his death until you read it in the paper?
He said his death was a mysterious one, and I should certainly be suspected if the facts came out. He frightened me into remaining silent.
I think, all in all, Miss Lyons, you've had a very fortunate escape. Mr. Stapleton knew he was under your power, yet you are still alive.
Couldn't remain silent any longer.
The line between fear and love is often a thin one. As you've been honest with me, I shall be honest with you. You're still in danger.
We must help Kathy.
Not if everything falls into place correctly, Sir Henry. Timing is essential. Watson, you'll escort Miss Lyons over here to Lady Agatha's cottage.
I can take care of myself.
You heard me, Watson?
Come along, my dear. You trust my protection.
Do.
I was right, you know. Nothing's easy on the moor.
You must be concerned for her safety.
Hang her safety. I merely want to guarantee that she won't warn Mr. Stapleton.
We must help Kathy.
You must do exactly as I instruct.
I'm ready.
You will go to the Stapleton cottage and enjoy your supper.
You can't be serious. I don't think I can face Jack Stapleton.
That is precisely what you must do. You'll divulge on your path on your return.
But where will you be?
Nearby. Leave within the hour.
Mr. Holmes.
Do.
Mr. Holmes. Barrymore? Barrymore? They've all left. Better get a hold of myself. Wait 1 hour. The origin of the Hound of the Baskervilles. There have been many statements. Know that in the time of the Great Rebellion, there were many battles fought. Sir Hugo, that name.
Good evening, Henry.
Kathy?
Yes. Kathy? Sweet, innocent, endearing.
What's wrong with you? Holmes told me you were married to Stapleton.
Oh. Did he now? Supposed to have to deal with that in time.
You and Stapleton plotted all of this together.
You mean Jack? Oh, don't be a fool, Henry. He's weak. He gets to the thing that was right there behind him. Pushing, insisting. It was all my idea.
I don't understand.
He's the son of Roger Baskerville, the younger brother of Sir Charles, who fled to South America and supposedly died unmarried. I
everything will be just. That means none.
He's my cousin?
It's outside the front door. Chained. I waited until the house was empty, until the moor was dark.
What? What is it?
You'll soon see. He's starved. I keep him that way. I'm going to release him.
No.
You only have one chance. On to the moor now, Henry. Run, run, run! I'll race him if you can't. You're only hot now. Run!
That would be for the Hound, Mrs. Stapleton.
What's happened to him?
Suppose they shot the doomed animal. I persuaded the warden searching for Selden to stay in the area for one more night.
Jack warned you, didn't he?
You weren't quite as sure of him as you thought.
You haven't yet, Mr. Holmes. There's always Griffin, Maya.
Kathy? Kathy!
You needn't worry, Sir Henry. Her melodramatic gestures wasted. The house is completely surrounded.
How did you know she wouldn't be at the cottage?
An able assist from Lady Agatha. She told me she saw Kathy go to where the Hound was secreted in an abandoned mine shaft. Later that night, she saw Kathy not go to her own cottage, but to this house.
So there really was a hound.
Yes, an enormous dog. Gigantic. Part mastiff, part Great Dane.
But the glow.
Phosphorus. In your shoe would supply the scent.
So Stapleton really did try to save my life.
In his clumsy fashion. He told me that he saw Kathy go, Sir Henry go to where the Hound was hidden. Later that night, she saw that Barrymore was in communication with Sir Charles.
Holmes, the police have stopped everyone on the moor.
A precautionary measure. They should be picking up Mr. Stapleton, and judging by those whistles, they picked up Kathy.
No. How could he hope to claim the inheritance?
Any in other ways, he could have set up an identity before the British authorities in Central America, or he could have hired an impersonator to act as him during a short London stay. Or he could have set up a disguise as well.
I was so afraid you suspected me. I thought of burning that letter with my name on it.
You needn't worry, Lady Agatha. I'm the last and highest call to beyond detection, and I exonerate you.
A bit pompous, Holmes.
Kathy really had no feeling for me at all.
If it's any consolation, Sir Henry, the most winning woman I ever met was hanged for poisoning 3 children for insurance money. Come, Watson, we must have missed the late train.
Right now? This minute?
The most interesting letter came from Miss Hudson. A retired officer from the Palace Guard is being blackmailed by some devilishly clever ruse. I suspect a crime ring in Detroit.
But my clothes, my things.
Lady Agatha, if you'd be so kind to have Perkins send those to Baker Street.
First thing in the morning.
Come, Watson. The game is afoot.
The man has no mercy.